you can just sit there and hold it. Yeah, the moment you make it Okay, everybody. As I was introduced, I am Ken Nerhus. I'm a member here at Long Beach and ISSA, as you've seen me before. And today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin. Our group here, my associates Mike Riccio and Eric Ravi Prashar, we created Abitcus, which is basically what we do is we inform people about Bitcoin and what it is and what you can do with it. So what is Bitcoin? Everyone's heard of it. It's basically a computer protocol. Everybody know what a computer protocol is? It's basically just a system that it works, that a computer works. It's decentralized. That's the difference between Bitcoin and regular money. Our regular money comes from a centralized Federal Reserve that's controlled by a centralized government. However, this is basically how the internet's ran. And just a little bit of history. In 1962, a man by the name of Paul Baran of the Rand Corporation started the theory of packet switching to communicate across a decentralized network and creating the foundation of the internet as we know it today. This theory is true as Bitcoin as well. All the money is distributed amongst everybody, and that's where the security is that everybody holds the funds. So Bitcoin is a form of digital currency. A lot of you people have seen Apple Pay and Google Wallet now. They're coming out with stuff. So basically Apple Pay is the same exact thing as Bitcoin. You flash your phone in front of a QR code and your payment is instantly done. However, with Apple Pay, you have to give up, you have to set up a profile and you have to give up personalized information, where with Bitcoin, you do not. It's kind of like setting up an old AOL email. They just kind of gave them to you. And so we got a little definition. It's just a form of currency or medium. You can store things on it, but however, the real security is in the computer protocol itself. And Bitcoin and the public ledger. So Bitcoin runs on a public ledger. So that means anybody can view anybody else's balance as long as you have their account number or hash. So say, for example, me and Ravi here gave each other Bitcoin. Any of you, as long as you knew either one of our Bitcoin hashes or account numbers, you could see that transaction. So for example, if someone wanted to buy a car off you and you wanted to know that they had the exact funds for that, they could give you their wallet, you could look it up, and that would verify that the funds are there. It is maintained by every computer connected to the network, so there's no one, as everybody knows, that if one goes down, they all don't go down. They're spread out. And each computer has its own copy of what's called the blockchain, and that is every transaction that's ever occurred in Bitcoin from 2009 when it was created till today. There's every transaction that's ever been done. So you can look any of those up. It's complete transparency. And these are the key features. Instant, near instant transactions. So when you make a transaction with someone on Bitcoin, it's instantly there. You don't really have to wait like a bank with some of the purchases at any amounts. There is a lag time for it to get verified through mining, and that takes a little bit of time, but it's anywhere between 0 to 10 minutes. Usually smaller ones take anywhere less than 5 seconds. And then you can use it as a payment method. It's anonymous, so you don't have to use personal identification. No private information will be shared. So even if you do make a purchase, it's not saved onto some central server that these companies can go and then sell your personal information to another marketing company. And it's a public record mechanism. As I mentioned before, there's full transparency, and all ledgers and all transactions and wallet balances are on the ledger. And so how to get yourself some Bitcoin? There's a few ways you can do it. You can do it by a direct deposit. There are certain places, websites like Coinbase and Bitstamp, where you can sign up with your account and it's linked and you can buy Bitcoin straight out of your account. Otherwise, you have to go and you'd have to buy it from an individual. So say, for example, if I wanted to buy some Bitcoin, I'd have to go to Mike. We would do a Bitcoin exchange on our phones, and then either one of us would give each other cash. And then you can also mine it, and that's mining cloud space or using your computer to verify transactions, and therefore you're given a reward once you are verified the transactions. But I'll let Mike go into that. So here we are. We have Mike Riccio, and he's going to talk to everyone about mining Bitcoin.
So thanks. I'm going to give you a little background on myself since I'm actually not a student here. I'm actually a software developer for a tech startup company. And I was actually hired while I was in the process of running a Bitcoin consulting business. I've been in Bitcoin for about 3.5 years now. I just heard Bitcoin on the internet one time on a forum, and I was like, oh, it sounds like nerd money. I'm like, sweet, let me check this out. I was like, wow, you mean I could actually use my computer to generate something that I could buy on the internet with and get an actual physical item for it? So after, time of investing, learning on the internet, I started building a mining machine, which I'll describe to you guys how to do that. And it was a really interesting experience for me. Let's see here. So we're going to start with where Bitcoins are stored. Since this is all on the internet, it uses a public address and a private address. So you use your public address to send to your friends if they want to send you money. Your private address is only used when you want to spend your money. So the thing about Bitcoin is it's a push technology rather than what we're used to with credit cards, where it pulls. So you have to actually initialize the send rather than somebody taking your credit card and it just they'll racking up charges. And then we have your wallet. Your wallet is it could be either web-based, where you could access it from a simple Android or iOS app, a physical piece of hardware, a desktop computer, or, like I said, a mobile application. So when you transfer Bitcoins, it adds an electronic signature to be verified on the network. And the network works very similar to a peer-to-peer based network, similar to, back in the day, Napster, Kazaa, torrent-based, so it's all on a peer. So as soon as your transaction hits the network, it starts to get verified by miners. And the miners are actually doing the processing to confirm your transaction actually happened. Here's the total possible wallets that can be generated. So as you can see, people can endlessly generate wallets for the foreseeable future down the line. And just to give you a perspective, right here is the amount of grains of sand on the beaches all around the world. So there's definitely enough wallets for everyone to go around. So mining. So like I said before, miners are the workers kind of behind the scenes, and they're confirming transactions while securing the network. The mining process is either software-based or hardware-based. When I first started building, back in the day, a few years ago, rig, a simple person can just put one of these, this is a GPU, a desktop graphics card, and use this because this has much more processing power than your CPU on your i7, AMD, or Intel chip. So this guy runs at 100% intensity while using mathematical equations to solve puzzles to confirm transactions on the network. And when you confirm a transaction on the network, it kind of peers it out. It sends a request, or it sends a confirmation out to the rest of the people connected on the network, letting you know the transaction was successfully confirmed. The beauty of Bitcoin is also there's a fixed amount in circulation. So right now, we're at about 14 million in circulation since the start of it in 2009. And the last Bitcoin, the 21 millionth Bitcoin, will not be mined until the year 2140. So the way the network works is it knows how many people are connected to the network, and it could predictably limit the amount of rate on a daily return. So very similar to the California gold rush. There's only so much gold in the ground, whereas traditional currencies, when there's a financial crisis, they usually tend to try and get the printing press out, and that kind of hurts the value of your dollar. The calculation behind Bitcoin network is a secure hash algorithm called SHA-256. And this essentially breaks down the code, encrypts it, decrypts it, and signs it for the rest of the network to see. Okay, here's 4 steps, simple steps to mining your own Bitcoin. So as we previously said, you need a Bitcoin wallet. And a wallet is so you can send and receive transactions on the network. Step 2 is to join a mining pool. So joining a mining pool at this point in time is one of the best ways to mine Bitcoin, because you're aggregating computing power as a community, and then therefore you're doing less work, but you're getting paid for your little share. So we've progressed so far on the Bitcoin network and processing speed that it's no longer viable for somebody just to have one of these in their computer and a mine of Bitcoin. That would take several years at this point. So it's much better to kind of combine your power with others, and then everyone gets a little slice of the pie. And when you get a little slice of the pie, you're getting a fraction of a Bitcoin. So here I have, these are a little more progressive. These came out a few years ago, and these are called ASICs. So it's pretty much a chip that only does one thing and one thing only, and it's to compute hash algorithms to confirm transactions on the network. So I'll pass a few of these around. Okay, here we're going to go on to Bitcoin faucets. So faucets are a really interesting element for Bitcoin. It's essentially like a drawer you see at a merchandise mart that's like, give a penny, take a penny. But the beauty of it is that instead of buying a miner or putting together a machine, you could go to, there's a bunch of websites out there that you can just simply do a capture code or view a website, view an ad, and they'll give you a really small fraction of a Bitcoin. And I think this is great because you got some new people that haven't been familiar with Bitcoin before, and they don't want to I don't want to spend money, and I have to tie my bank account to it. So this is a very easy way to kind of get your feet wet. And another beauty of Bitcoin is that it can be divisible to the 100th of a millionth of a Bitcoin. So think of 100 millionth of a penny, cutting that up into little fractions of a penny, and that is the capability that Bitcoin allows you to have. So here's a typical payout for a simple watch a video or whatnot. Doesn't come out to be a penny. You're about at 1,000 satoshis. But it's a great way, like I said, to get people kind of familiar with the technology, send transactions to their friends, and so forth. And here are, it's been 4 or 5 years now that Bitcoin has been around, and the adoption rate has slowly been, reaching the mainstream users. California was the first state to sell a Lamborghini and a Tesla for Bitcoin. You got Dish Network, you have Wikipedia, Khan Academy, as you can see. So right now we're getting to the point where you could use a Bitcoin all day without even having to use an American dollar, all over the world. So at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Robbie, who's going to teach you about banking and financial instruments.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. I hate going last because everyone's exhausted about hearing about Bitcoin at this point. But that's okay because I'm really going to talk about the financial instruments behind Bitcoin. So let me ask you this. How many of you guys have a bank account? Show of hands. Everyone's got a bank account. Okay. Well, on a global scale, only about half of the adults in the world have a bank account or any type of formal financial instrument. And what a financial instrument is any type of tradable asset, cash, checks, stock shares, accounts receivable. If you have the legal right to receive money from a corporation or a person, you could use those things as an asset to trade. Like I said, 90% of adults in the US have a bank account. There's over 2.5 billion adults around the world that are unbanked. This could be a problem, could not be. Here's some problems. How would you pay your rent if you don't have a bank account? Or you can't write a check? You can't get a cashier's check? You gotta pay cash, right? Your car insurance, gas for your car, utilities. Would you be able to run a business on cash only? It's very difficult. Next slide, please. So what if your cash is so unstable that it's not even a good storage of value? What if you went to work in the morning and you made, let's say you work at Starbucks and you make your $12.50 an hour, and then at the end of the day, you worked your 8 hours and your day's pay rate is now only good enough to buy a gallon of milk and some bread. Well, that would suck, right? The volatility of Bitcoin in its early stages used to be so all over the place. Well, there are other currencies in the world that actually have this problem. For example, Zimbabwe. The current, we gotta go back one. Well, the current exchange rate for the Zimbabwe dollar, I think, is $600 quadrillion to $1 US. So if you had one of these $500 notes, you're pretty much up a creek without a paddle. But I know what you're thinking, okay, so Zimbabwe, Argentina, there's all these third world countries that have very poor currencies, and maybe Bitcoin can help them. But we just said, in order to be part of the Bitcoin network, you got to get a wallet, you might need to mine something if you want to get a node. How are they going to afford that, right? There's no infrastructure. Well, another interesting statistic, just so happens that there are 6.8 billion cell phone subscriptions globally. The population of the world is roughly 7 billion. So almost everybody has a cell phone. Now, in the third world, it's very much I don't know, some of you guys might be too young to remember the old Nokia that only had Snake. Yeah, a couple of you. It's kind of difficult to backtrack and write a program for a platform like that where we would be able to transact a digital payment. However, there is software out there, and we have our best people working on it to provide this service through SMS messaging. Next slide, please. So here's some similarities and some differences about Bitcoin compared to fiat currency. Fiat currency is just a government-backed currency. So it's backed up by the economy of the issuing country. For fiat currencies, Bitcoin is backed up by the consensus of the users on the network, how much it's been trading at, how much it's been used in transactions. Fiat currency is governed by a central bank, and mathematics governs Bitcoin. In order to do a wire transfer, I currently work at a financial institution. It could cost you anywhere from $25 to $65 to send some funds to a foreign country outside of that bank's network. With Bitcoin, within that Bitcoin network, it's geographically unbound. You could send your money to Tokyo in the morning and have it in Milan 20 minutes later. The transfer costs, like I said, the fees with financial institutions, that's in pounds, are pretty high. With Bitcoin, we're talking fractions of a penny, maybe a penny for a transaction. I already mentioned this, that there are 7 billion people on the planet, 6 billion people have cell phones. So with the third world rising and slowly adopting our technological advancements, can we provide financial services for these companies and create more fluid global economy? Imagine if you were in Nigeria and you sold tiny little wrist bracelets, right? Takes you all day to make 100 of them. Well, with a little bit of internet access and Bitcoin, you could now have a global business. You could be someone who went from making $1 a day to making hundreds of dollars a day in Bitcoin. And it would be more accepted than your local currency. I'm going to bring Kent back up here to give a closing statement, and we'll take some questions after that.
All right, everybody, we thank everyone for coming today and showing up. I saw everyone was pretty engaged. I saw some people taking some notes even. That really helps us out because Bitcoin's really new. I mean, it's 5 years old, but for like everyone in here, it was real new and everything. So we'll leave the floor open for anyone to ask.